Okay, well, welcome back to Watercolor Studio 42, and I'm going to do another one of those sort of minimal amount of color pictures. One other one I did a week or so ago, I did what they call monochromatic, just using one color, and which is a good exercise in getting kind of adjusted to value changes from what's really darker brown or darker whatever color it is, or the lighter colors. And sometimes you work from a black and white photograph, or just maybe just a brown, all of one color, whatever it might be. So this particular picture I'm doing today, this is a farm out in Norton, just off Route 123. As you go out Pleasant Street from Attleboro, and so it's a farm. It's a kind of it's a nice farm because it's kind of rustic, and I like things that have kind of seen a little bit of the New England weather, and so it's an excellent spot out there. I happened to be going out that way one time, taking maybe a shorter route to Mansfield or something like that, and so I had to stop, and I happened to have my camera with me, so I took a picture of it, and I still have a photograph that I took way back when, and I've got quite a collection of pictures over the years. My gosh, stacks of them somewhere. Not that pictures that I've taken with my camera, but from everywhere, you know, magazines, newspapers, postcards, whatever, wherever we visited, you know, things like that. And so now what I want to mention is that I don't dare to start off using a marker right off without doing a little bit of the pencil work first, because if you put a line down with the marker, you can't erase it, you know, it's permanent ink, so you have to somehow hide it. So I always do a minimal amount of sketching, and I do most of the detail work or whatever I add to the picture, usually painting that in. So that tends to be the route that most watercolorists take. They do a minimal amount of the drawing. So what I've done here, I've done this light in pencil. So I'm going to take one of my markers here and just go over some of what I've done. Last time I used brown. You could use a brown marker. I think that would work fine. And so I'm just going to go over, like I said, a minimal amount of drawing. Now, in this particular picture, the road is going by here, and so I think that line is kind of important to put in. So it's kind of a line, it's a kind of a diagonal line that comes across here. And then there's a banking, there's a little banking here, put a line for the banking. Something like that. It can be a broken line. It doesn't have to be a solid line. Then there was not any wire fence or anything there, but I thought it was important that I break this up with some a wire fence, and some of the posts. You don't have to make them upright straight. Kind of gives them a little bit of a slant. One way or the other, either slant them left or right, something like this. And then eventually I'm going to put use a thinner, if I have a smaller marker. I don't think I have one with me, but I'll put that in. And then there's the ground line. That basically, that's pretty straight across. You want to get that somewhat level. And so I'm just going to come across, I usually indicate where the center of the paper is by putting some marks on the tape, on the outside of the tape. But let's just kind of come across here. It's going to be a sort of a broken line. There you go. So I can kind of chop that up a little bit. And then what we want to do here is put in some of the buildings. Now, in this particular photograph, there's quite a few buildings. There's the home, I believe a couple of houses down the street there looking down the road. Then there's a silo, larger barn, and then there's some other add-ons, so sheds and things that over the years, that's what happens when you own a farm. You add another building for chickens and another building for some other animals, whatever it might be. And so then we got some trees in the background. So I'm just going to start off here. Now, there's a telegraph pole that's leaning out of the painting, but I'm going to have it kind of lean in. Let's get this out of the way here. It's going to be leaning in like that. This is going to be a telegraph pole. And then there's the farmhouse. We'll just indicate that. We'll show the roof over here of the house. Let's see if I can get it. Now this is, I'm not measuring anything today. This is just winging it. So if anything's crooked, I hope I'm going to be consistently crooked. I don't want to make something perfect and all of a sudden everything else is out of whack. Now, right here, adjacent to the house, there's a silo. So we want to make sure that's relatively straight up and down, not tilted too much. And I usually compare it with the edge of the paper. I look at the edge of the paper and then draw the mark. And the width of that, something like this. Let's put it right in here. We'll put this line right here. Then somewhere there's the top of it. I'm going to put a dot there. And I'm just going to have a line come down on this side. Something go over here. Something like that for the silo. Put a line across here. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight, you know, just to give me an idea. The barn itself, is the roof of the barn, the larger barn, is actually up above here somewhere. It's above the silo, and the pitch of the roof come down something like this. Make sure I get it somewhat right. Then we want to show how the roof kind of tilts back. I exaggerate a little bit on that. And then the back of the barn is on the same angle as the front. So if I can line that up, get that fairly even, there it looks all right. And then you got the eave, the underneath part of the barn. That's going to be in here somewhere. Now usually there's some windows up in the barn, up there somewhere for the hay loft where they put the grain and hay and all that up in the top. Let's put the other side of the barn coming down into here somewhere. And maybe show the back of the barn. Again, that's a straight line. Whoops. Didn't hit it off the road. There you go, something like that. And then we have all these little additions that they build onto the barn over the years. Maybe they needed something for the supplies, you know, the tool or the grain. So they have these little add-ons that they build onto the side of the barn. And then we've got another shed that comes out here. Now, like I said, I don't dare to do this without having kind of put the markings in first with pencil. Not that I stay on my markings that I draw originally, but I try to keep somewhat close to what I've done. Here you go. And then you see the side of this addition here. And then there's a lot of little things in here, vertical things that might be in the picture that you might see. And we'll make this one a little bit thicker here. Whoops, off the rule. You know, something like that. And then there might be some other windows here and whatnot. I'm leaving quite a bit out, and this is what I do when I paint anyways. I kind of, let's put a couple of windows up in the house, a couple of windows along here, you know, something like that. And then we're going to have some trees. Now in the picture right in here, you can see some trees kind of popping up in this area. And you're going to see a few more trees over in here in the background, something like that. They're going to not be quite as tall because they're going to kind of create, want to make them look like they're a little further away. And then you got some real smaller things in here, whatever we can touch that up with. And let's see, I think there's some trees off in this background in here. I know there's quite a cluster of trees coming up in this area, just to have something growing out of this corner, something coming into the painting. Now you can see that obviously I'm not spending an awful lot of time on the drawing. This is about it. It might be something else. I might string some wire, you know, something across here eventually, something going across in there. This is going to be some of the road, probably put some shadows across there. But as far as this goes, I'm not going to add too much more to it, other than what I'll put in when I paint it in. Now, a lot of people spend an awful lot of time, especially when you're starting off, you might spend an awful lot of time getting trying to put too much in or getting too fussy with it. And you try to put all this nitty-gritty stuff in. And the only problem is, then when you come to paint, then you have to try to paint around. You try to paint around all of that, you know? And it makes it a little bit tricky to do that. So this is going to be sort of the banking, so we can have that kind of, put a few markings coming down towards the road, you know, in through there, just to remind myself that's supposed to be the banking, and grass up and through there. Okay, so now this is pretty much how much I do with the drawing part, and I spend a minimum amount of time on the drawing. And over the years, I've got to the point where I do less and less of the drawing, and do more of the painting and of the extra things, you know, the detail, the texture, and so forth. And so that's about it. Now, seeing this is an outdoor picture, I'm going to start with the sky and kind of work down. And in this particular photograph, there's sort of a light area down in the middle of the sky, and the upper portion, the upper meridian, it's a little bit always darker because you're kind of looking through maybe less atmospheric, conditions. Okay, now let's see where we're at. We'll use a bigger brush. A little bit larger brush for the sky. I've got a large 1-inch flat here. I don't know if that's probably, I don't need that. I probably don't need it that large because I don't have that much sky to cover. Let's use a round brush here. Get some water. And let's wet the paper. Let's wet the sky area in. Activate the paper for that. And just wet the surface. so that when you put the color in, you can slide it around a little bit better. And where I want it to be lighter around the buildings here, I can blot that out. Now, let's take a little bit, I think my blue is over here, I hope. Yeah, we got some blue. All right. I'm very cautious when I paint. I don't want to get too dark too soon. Whoa, that's probably too dark too soon, okay? So I'm going to get some of that paint out of the brush and wiggle this across here, spread it around. I know it's darker up there, but not quite that dark. Pull the paint out. Okay, here we go. Down through here. Probably get a little, pull some of that into here. I'm trying to match the photograph a little bit here. Okay, take some of that across. Pull that over here. That corner is a little bit darker up in there, so you can put a lot more. Get this out of the way here. Get some more paint up and back here. Okay. Now, the sky is fairly, that's the easy part. I consider that always easier to do. And usually my outdoor pictures, I usually start with the sky first. And now, the grass is probably a little bit like right now. We're having a dry spell. So what happens is that the grass kind of dries a little bit, and we'll have some raw sienna, maybe some yellow in there, and raw sienna mixed in. Whoops, a little bit more of that color. And that's going to be kind of across in through this area here. You can make it kind of bumpy, you know, add some texture to it. Doesn't have to be smooth. Give a little bit of texture. Trouble is, I've been using the ruler a lot lately, so sometimes all of my pictures I do with straight edges, and then paint them in. I call it lineism. I don't know if there's any such thing in the art world. It's called lineism, but nevertheless, that's what I call it. So that has a sort of a little bit of yellow and some raw sienna. I can add a little bit more raw sienna into here. Oh, right into there. Now down in here, I'm going to put a lot of that. I'm going to put a lot of that in, right along the banking that goes to the edge of the road. Okay. That's a little bit heavy up in there, so we're going to take some of that out. We're going to pull it across into here. Something like that. That gets a little bit heavy. That's why they invented paper towels and blotters, to lift some of that darker color out. I'm going to pull some of that right out of there. There you go, how's that? Take a lot of that out of there. But I can leave some down in here. On the edge of the road, get some of that out of there. Right along the edge of the road. There you go. Okay. Erase some of that, take it out. Trying to match a little bit the color of the photograph. Now I don't need this white band in there, so we'll bring that right down to the edge of the road, or the edge of the banking, I should say. Yeah, something like that. This is up to you. If you want to take a little bit of yellow, take a picture of blue. If I can get that to turn green, that would be interesting. You do that. I don't know if there's going to be a little bit more green in there. Yeah, it's a darker shade of green, but we'll pull that across in there. The grass isn't completely dried out. Pull that across over in here. Now, some of that can go up into the tree area. The trees haven't turned yet. There you go. Hopefully it's still midsummer here. Okay, let's take the white out here. Don't want to make it look like there's snow there. You can have a little bit of white show through with some green up around into the trees here. So actually, when you're doing a painting, as far as watercolor goes, you could kind of put these washes on. They're painting those large areas first. Notice how you can reactivate the color and take some of that out of there. I'm using up the paper towel pretty good. Let's take a clean one. Come across here. Now there's going to be some shading that I got to put on the buildings. We'll let some of the lighter color come through. There's going to be some darker shades here and there. And I may not need to use a larger brush like this. I could go to a smaller one when I start doing a little bit more fussy work. That's a little bit light in there. Let's see if I can put a little darker shades of green in that. Just a pinch of green. Hey, whoa, that might be too much, but nevertheless. Let's put that, repeat that green over in here. And let's soften this out. Spread this out through here. There's some other buildings down the road, but I'm not going to get too involved with some of that detail. Might just suggest a little bit, but a window or part of a roof or something. We could put something like that in, fill that in later. Let's fill this in down on the side here. Pull that back, get this straight. Just pull that back into there. You want to, when you paint, you want to spread your color around a little bit, you know, kind of use it more than once in more than one place. Here we go, here. Work this in. Now the road's going to have a little bit of more of a grayish color, I guess. And we could kind of work on that a little bit more. I don't know if I have that color out or not. Probably over here somewhere. I always have a little bit of that Payne's gray somewhere. A tube here or there. It's always the last thing you pick up. That might, yeah, that's it, okay. We'll use a little dab of that, put that on the road. Road seems to be relatively smooth, so I'm just going to wet it and kind of wet it down, so when I put the gray in there for the asphalt, it has a little bit of a hint of shadows in there falling across the road. Sometimes I paint very, very spontaneous. If I put something down, sometimes I like it. I don't tamper with it. I don't try to pull it around. Just fill it in a little bit more. Okay, erase. You can erase things before it settles in too much. But there's a little bit of a shadow coming out of that corner across the road from probably the trees on the opposite side that aren't in the picture. Okay, let's see what else we can do. Okay, take some of that. Let's put a little bit of that up in here. A little bit, there's a darker area right up in that corner. So we can kind of spread that around a little bit. And what else? Pick up that spot. I want to erase some of that. Get some of that out of there, pull it back up into the blue. Yeah. Okay, what else we need? A lot of little texturing. I think I'm going to add some of that a little bit later on. Take some of that asphalt off the road here. This can be a little bit darker through here. Some of the dirt on the banking. Kind of fades off into the corner a bit. Just have it blend off. And then we got a lot of fussy, little fussy bit of detail. We'll put some color into the barn here and there. Some of that repeated on the house, and spread it around a bit. Just pull it out. Okay, what else can we do? Maybe put some of that color up into the trees. I don't want to make it look like they're turning color too soon. Maybe a little bit on the silo. Okay. That might be a little bit too much for the house. Let's wet that and blot that. Take some of that yellow out. That's better. Now, let me say this while I'm at it. I'm using a fairly large brush, and you can use a large brush even though it's a little fussy area. And if you stick with a larger brush as long as you can cover more of the area faster, but also it prevents you from getting too fussy with certain parts. I know sometimes we get bogged down, we try to do too much. I'm going to kind of off shade, oops, a little bit dark. I wanted to just cut down the, let's clean that up a bit. Don't want too many spots. You don't want the roof to be too dark, but just give it a little bit of, cut down the white. Take some of that out. That looks about where we want to go with that. You put some of that on the silo. That can go on the house. See how you're carrying those colors around. You certainly can use the same color more than one place. And that's what pulls your painting together. You know, it kind of holds it together a little bit more. Whatnot. Some cast shadow maybe on the roof here. Might be something from the tree. Let's blend that in, mix it in. Okay, what we have here. Now, what we have to consider is to start going a little bit darker in areas that are darker. And it's really dark on the shadow here, on the silo. There's a little hollow area in here that can be darker. And you don't have to spend an awful lot of time being fussy with that. Like on the side of the silo, all you have to do, if that's dry enough, let's make sure it's dry enough. All you have to do is come down the side like this and just put something like that in. Now that brush had a little bit of green in it, so I don't know if I want the silo to have green. We'll take some of that out. I'd like to have that a little more brown. So we're going to go over that a little bit with the brown. Here you go, something like this. Okay, just wiggle that out a little bit. And that's how dark it is in the photograph. But, however, we could take a little bit of the edge off of that. What I usually do is take some of that color and bring it over here. Put a little bit of it over here. I'm spattering. Yeah, just bring some of that, take some of that edge off and bring that into here. It's dark around the bottom in the corner there. And it's going to be, the whole building is going to be a little bit darker. It's going to have different shades in it. Right along through here. Rough it up a little bit, some of the wood texture. Now I'm sticking with a larger brush as long as I can. That's a little bit too much. I'll take some of that and take some of that, put that over into here. Now where you can make the barn look a lot more textured is later on when the paint dries. I kind of go into it a little bit with a fine pen or a fine brush and just put in just a little bit of the texture more. Let's do a little bit more on the roof of the silo. Make that show up a little bit better. Okay. And I wanted to put something down in here darker. Right along through here. There are some other houses down the street, but I'm going to let that go for now. We could always, excuse me, can always add something. That's the thing, you can always put more in. Sometimes you don't want to go overboard and put too much in. Pick up that little speck there. You can get carried away with too much, do too much. It's better to do less, a lot less than to try to get too fussy with it. Kind of leave a little bit to the imagination of the viewer, you know, let them kind of add what they want to it. Now we want to go, there's a darkest area, going to be something darker in here, right over in somewhere in here. We'll just make it kind of that shape for now. Just fill that in. Now what I'm doing is more or less not being too fussy with trying to get too busy with what I'm doing, but just to do some of these areas kind of flat. Just fill it in where it looks darker. I want to make that a little bit darker. Get carried away too much. That's a little bit on the heavy side, so let's take some of that out. erase it, pour it over. It is poured over. Yeah. We can just come down the side with this. Kind of clean it up a little bit more. There we go. I don't want this to be too white across the bottom, so let's bring that right down into the green area. Right across the bottom here, just kind of add some more texture. Whatever you want to add to it. There's a lot of things that might be around the barnyard, and that's what makes it interesting, because you have that choice of how much you want to put in, how much you want to leave out. There's something going on down and through here. Oh my gosh, I'm spattering again. I'm making it look like pebbles on the road here. Let me just erase some of that. Yeah. Okay, let's move on over here, see what we can do. There might be some other coloring in here. Some more texturing, certain things going on in here. Whatever you want to add to that. There's other things going on in here. Maybe something else in the corner. I think there was some fencing that I can put in a little bit later too. There's a closed-in area there, some fence. Seems to me when I was over there, there's maybe some sheep in that particular area. It was quite a while ago. I was going through my files, sorting through it the other day, and I came up with this one. I got another beauty at home that I got to do sometime, but I've got to have more than an hour to work on it. I want to get it, really super. This is okay, but it's not something that you have to kind of cut a few corners here. Put some color on this roof. There's some darker shadows over in here, around the building. This silo, that needs a little bit more texture. Needs a little bit more to that. I think I've got to put that in with a fine pen or something. Clean this up a bit. Do a little bit up in here. Maybe make it a little darker under the eave. Yeah. I'll take some of that out of there. Pour it out. Yeah, that's better. A little bit better. Okay, let's take this little spot out of here. I can probably go a little darker under the eave somewhat. Clean that up a little bit. Now when I do these pictures a lot of times, I put in some of the larger shades, larger color areas, and then I can always go back into it and kind of add the fine tuning. Put a little bit more of the detail. a lot of shading that you can do here. If you make this, you can even introduce some of the blue. You take some of the blue you have, the gray and the blue, and use some of the sky colors in that. This here, let me take some of that out of there. I think I got too much brown out there, so maybe I can still cook up something with my green. Maybe make that a little bit more of a green area around there. Something like that. And let's see what else. What I do is take, if I use green somewhere, I always kind of put it somewhere else. I kind of spread the colors around somewhat. You can probably go a little darker through there. Maybe. That's it. Now, what else? Maybe clean this up a little bit in here. Yeah, let's add some more green off here somewhere. Make that darker off towards the edge. Okay. Now you can still come back in with your marker and still put in a little bit more detail. Add a little bit of light through there. Let's quiet that down. Oops. Okay. I'll pull some of that out of there. I'm getting this kind of light again. Really, it's quite dark. And I'm making it a little bit lighter than probably what it is in the photograph anyways. Okay. Let's see if I can pull some more of this out. Now, what we have here, I'm going to put, I'm going to do a little bit more with the road shadow. Make that a little bit deeper into here. I know I'm being a little bit more conservative here. Now I always bring my white along too. If I get too carried away sometimes with maybe too much of the same color, it gets a little bit heavier. Sometimes I let it dry and then put a little white acrylic. I have this tube here that I use, Basics, and it's acrylic that I put in there just to lighten up certain areas. And obviously, the big thing is too is see if you can get some of your colors eventually they come back in a little bit darker. But usually what I do, I let this set overnight, let it really dry out, and then I can get a better idea how light it's drying out, and then I can come back and kind of come in and make certain things darker. It's going to be a little darker in here, and a little bit of, quite a bit of darkness to here, right up in that section, and it's going to be darker back here. Along the edge of the road, I don't know if I can introduce a warmer color into that or not. There's something I might consider right through here is just putting a little bit of warmer color. But you can also put a little bit more green edge. You can put a little bit more green along the edge here and just have it kind of fade off as it goes towards the edge of the paper. This could stand to be maybe a little bit darker here, right into here. And then this could stand to be, I think, a little bit more defined. What's happening in here on the side of the building. So there's a few things that needs some touch up. But I tried to get that sky the way it is in the photograph. And suppose I could take some of that, a little bit of blue over here. I probably could come back in and make this a little bit deeper back. Oh, I don't want to get it too grayish color either. But we can go a little darker back in there. You know, get some of that color back there. And you can use some of that color, like I said, I always use it somewhere else in the picture just to pull things around. Back here, you can put a lot of different things in there. Now, what there is in the picture, it's hard to see it, but there is a little fence. I don't know if this is dry enough. I'm using a regular ballpoint pen, but you could show a little bit of a fenced-in area right in through this area here. We'll put some posts in there, and that's fenced in there. So there's a lot of little details you can add. You can add some more wire into this. You know, have that kind of fill in more. Yeah. And the textures, there's a lot more texture on the side of the silo. You can see some of the marking. I'm just going to put a couple of things in just to show you, you know, the texture that you can develop. So those are the things that you want to put into your picture before you finish. Now, it's a lot of brown, it's a lot of green, it's got blue. Now, like I said, you can warm it up slightly with maybe putting a little bit of a hint of red. We could try that just for, oh, I only need a speck of it. We'll try some of this here, see what happens. And I'm going to take and put some of that, actually it's quinacridone rose, which is alizarin crimson, and I'm just going to add a little bit that into my, take a little bit of that and put that into the, my sepia, which is just a little bit of red. I don't know if that will warm this up or not. I have to be very careful when I do these things. so I don't get too much red into it. But just to warm it up a little bit, just a hint, right through here. I don't know if that makes much difference. Right along through here, just to make it warm it up a bit with some red in there. And I suppose you could just warm it up a little bit, just add a little bit of that color. Maybe put a little bit, warm it up, the painting a little bit more. That's something that you might want to consider doing. I think I'd certainly want to do a little bit more with some of that green. See, where's the blue? Right here. Yeah. And see if I can get some more of that green back up in here, more back of the barn. Okay. You got that color there. Repeat it up in here. Carry it around. It needs to be, give it a little bit more oomph. Definitely some more texture. Okay. So that's pretty much it, how you go about doing that. And probably the road could be a little bit darker too. See if I can put some more color into that. It's coming out of the corner there. It's a little bit deeper color. I'm going to spread that out a little bit. It's like another glaze that you put on there. Just coming out of that corner, you want to just kind of make it show up a little bit more. Okay, that helps. Now, like I was saying, that really the finishing touches, I'd probably work on it a little bit more. I'm just going to pull this tape off, and if you sign your name, probably you can put your name across the bottom somewhere in there. Now, I've tried to get this tape. I bend it back a little bit so I can get a hold of it and remove it a little bit better. Take it off the back, kind of tear it on an angle. There you go. Whoops. Come down the side. That's working better. A little bit over here. Just having a mat around your artwork, no matter what it is, it does kind of dress it up. Kind of dresses it up a little bit more, okay? But like I said, these are kind of solid colors that I put in pretty much, and you can come back with a fine tip pen or whatever and put some of the more, some of the finer texture on the building, maybe a little bit more detail that you can put into your picture. But that gives you a little bit of the idea of what's going on. This is a little bit light across here, so that's why your artificial mat doesn't show up as much. I could put the tape back on, make the road a little bit darker, so it would come out pretty good. So that's it for this time, and probably another week I might be doing something more woodland, go back into a waterfall, or like what I'm wearing today is very tropical. Maybe I'll go into a beach scene with some palm trees, whatever, along the beach, okay? So, until next time, my old saying is, brushes up, and we'll see you a little bit later. Thanks for being with us.